and welcome to TheAIbumMan, and today we're going to be talking about Return to Forever by the Scorpions. This was certainly a band I really wasn't sure we're going to release another album since their last album, Stinging the Tail, which was released in 2010. It does seem to promise to be their last, mainly due to the announcement of a farewell tour after, which appeared to include everywhere in the world, aside from the UK, so thanks for that, Scorpions, you do have fans in the UK. Though, like Judas Priest and Rolling Stones before them, they decided to actually screw it, or just carry on. This farewell tour wasn't a farewell tour, it was just a big tour. I mean, the last track on Stinging the Tail, I suppose, was called The Best Is Yet to Come, so maybe it is. Though I think that, not quite true. Though at least they are playing the UK this year, and they're playing Ramblin' Man Affair, so certainly pleased they haven't retired yet, as I'm going to get an opportunity to see them. So I'm hardly complaining about their decision to carry on. And also, it's not as like the Scorpions have been making bad albums when they have released an album recently. Both Humanity Hour and Stinging the Tail being accomplished Scorpions albums. And with Return to Forever, they've decided to do a bit of Van Halen, like what they did on Different Kinds of Truth. They decided to return to their roots, but they're not simply trying to recreate the past like Van Halen, they're actually taking songs written in the 80s from the past and bringing them into modern day, modern production values, adding some new lyrics to them, and just sprucing them up a bit. And alongside the producer and songwriters who also collaborated on Stinging the Tail, Mikael Nord Anderson and Martin Hansen, who have significant writing contributions across this album. But the question is, going for this 80s sound, have the Scorpions truly recreated their former glory? Well, from the opening track, Going Out with a Bang, perhaps they have. This is certainly starting the album with a bang. The enormous meaty riffs from Schenker and Matthias Jabs dominate the song. This sort of bluesy flair with that classic hard rock Scorpion sound. If this were to suddenly appear tomorrow on the Blackout album, I honestly wouldn't bat an eyelid listening to it. It's a fun opening. Klaus's vocals as strong as ever. They've truly aged very well. I mean, maybe one of the things with his vocals, he was never known for having, going into particularly massively high ranges or something like that. His vocals have always been fairly mid-range, so I suppose when they age, you don't notice as significantly, perhaps, as other vocalists like Rob Halford, for example, though he's certainly adapted to his age. Anyhow, and yeah, they really drive the chorus, in particular, Klaus's vocals. It really is a cracking way to open the album, a phenomenal 80s style Scorpions tune. And following it, we have Rock You Like a Hurricane Part 2. Well, not quite, but We Built This House. Come on, you can't deny there is a semblance to Rock You Like a Hurricane in that opening bit. Like, it does sound a bit like it. It's fairly hard to deny. But you can immediately hear from the outset this song was the lead single. And I said this in my track review, much to everyone's ire and disdain, that I didn't like the production in this track. And that doesn't apply to the rest of the album, luckily. But I did find that while this had a very catchy chorus, there just seemed to be over-compression, and the guitar seemed to be a bit further back in the mix, almost slightly muddy, a very sort of clear, I don't know, a very sort of commercial, soft edge to them, really lacks that sting. But I do find this is really the only track on the album, outside of obvious ballads, that this criticism applies to. The rest of the guitar tone is actually really good, as I'll talk about a bit later. And yeah, this song has grown on me since it's been released, definitely. I enjoy it more than I did, because it's just so damn catchy, to be honest. So I can't decry it too much. Now, one thing that has to be mentioned, if you've been listening to Scorpions for really any amount of time, you may note there is a certain word they just love. I mean, really love. Just like AC/DC. If you haven't guessed it by now, then you're not a great fan. It is the word rock. Oh yeah, Scorpions, they love their use of the word rock. I mean, 4 tracks out of 12 here have the word rock in the title. And if you were trying to count the number of times it's been said throughout the album, it's a number so large, I believe it quite honestly impossible to quantify. But it's part of Scorpion's charm, isn't it really? It may add a certain amount of cheers, like a thin layer of cambozola to the music, and yes, I had to find a German cheese. Yes, I haven't heard of it either, but apparently it's a blue cheese. Can't say I like blue cheese that much, but there you go, for those unacquainted with this particular cheese. Though perhaps even more than ever across this album, the main theme is rock music, particularly touring, life on the road, playing gigs. That type of thing is so prevalent on this album. A great example of where it's done very well is the track Rock and Roll Band. This was written by Klaus, a solo credit to him, and it's a roaring, fast-paced song, strong rhythm section, and what I love, it just has a sense of immediacy, urgency, unrestrained, fiery, rock and roll energy to it, and it's just one of the best songs I've heard from the Scorpions in years, quite frankly. Though I do slightly prefer the first track of this album, Going Out With a Bang. This is just still a phenomenal listen. It sounds like it was pulled straight from the 80s. It's simply excellent. Though sometimes these rock songs about rock can straddle the line between good and bad cheese. And for the most part, they do work well. The highly enjoyable guitar solo and chunky riffs of All For One and its classic 80s gang choruses are fairly infectious. They really don't make them like this anymore, even with the utterly hideous lyricism of "Watch out for trouble, bro. Don't mess with rattlesnakes." Okay, I won't. Saying this, there are certain times where I personally find that the lyrics are so bad and so unbelievably amateur that they actually ruin the song, and certainly, at the very least, cause a great detriment to it. A prime example for this, the song actually loads of people seem to love in the album, so I'm sure everyone will hate me for this. I don't like Rock My Car. And I really do think you can just judge this song from this title and its chorus of rock, rock, rock my car, let's push the pedal down to the metal. This song is so laughably bad in its lyricism, it would most likely be enough to give both Bob Dylan and Van Morrison simultaneous heart attacks, if they ever heard it. I know every time I complain about lyrics, or at least criticise lyrics, people are always like, oh well, it doesn't matter, it's the music and this, but to me, part of a song, if you're not just an instrumental band, then the lyrics are open to being criticised, and they can genuinely hamper my enjoyment of this song. I admit I have a far higher tolerance for bad lyrics than I do bad musicianship. Sure, I think most people would share that sentiment. But when the riffs are hardly anything to shout about, as they are in bloody Rock My Car, I mean, Rock and Roll Band does a far better job of this type of upbeat song, I'm afraid to say. I will admit the guitar solo in Rock My Car is good, so I can definitely say that's good, but this ode to hedonism for me is just an ode to cringeworthy lyricism. Another track I feel similarly about, of where the lyrics have been a detriment, is The Scratch, coming second to last. Now this opens with an absolutely terrific riff. It seems a big headbanging song is imminent, but then they kind of drop the ball after the intro. I really did not have much fun with this one. Here's some sections I will quote for you from the chorus. Are you the 1, 2, 3, 4? And brace yourself for this one. I want you 2, 3, 4, 5. Babe, I'm buzzing around your hive. Babe, I'm buzzing around your hive. Oh God. That is award for worst lyric of 2015 so far. Has to go to that. And I think at the end of the year, I can't see much beating that. That is... wow, to say the least. I mean, the Beatles may have been able to do Counting Right with their song All Together Now, but that was really just a fluke and shouldn't ever be replicated by anyone ever again. Though luckily Matthias Jabs and Rudolf Schenker do pull out all the stops to prevent this from being a complete and utter disaster of the song, and it actually features, weirdly enough, some of the best guitar playing on the album. Fast shred-like tapping section at one point, and rhythmically interesting little guitar licks between riffs. I would say because of how good the musicianship is, I'm more mixed towards the song than I actually dislike it, like with Rock My Car. There is one last aspect of the album we must take a look at before we conclude, and it's the ballads. They've always been such a big part of the Scorpions, and in my opinion, the Scorpions are one of the absolute best bands of performing ballads just in rock history. They truly mastered the power ballad with Wind of Change and so many other songs. So the first ballad we have on this album, House of Cards, and surprisingly, it ain't all that cheesy, no Cinderella present here. It's a gentle, almost sombre track with an acoustic guitar being picked and providing the backing for Klaus's gliding, soulful vocals throughout the track, and it's delivered in does what appear to be a rather genuinely gentle and heartfelt manner. The Scorpions have definitely... what's been such a big part of their success is their balance between rockin' headbangers and lovely ballads. You have that commercial edge of the ballads and the stuff that rock fans like of the headbangers. And this is certainly a lovely ballad. I really think this highlights the strength of Klaus's voice and just provides that moment of respite, that moment of calm from the album's more upbeat, rockin' material. I Have the Storm is another ballad on this album that's worthy of note. It's more of a power ballad than its predecessor in House of Cards, and I do like a good power ballad. I mean, not too cliche, but I have a high tolerance for cliches when it comes to power ballads. Oh man, I'm a sucker for big 80s hair metal ballads, so there you go, I've said it, now you can unsubscribe. This certainly delivers while not excelling in the power ballad department. It's hardly groundbreaking or even just a modern classic. Don't expect Wind of Change Part 2, but it serves its purpose nicely, and lyrically it's really actually not that bad. It's genuinely not. And okay, it does follow the traditional ballad rock formula, the whole verse, chorus, bridge, solo, chorus thing, but I enjoy it nonetheless. Personally, I do find this album to be satisfying, and it achieves what it sought to achieve. It wanted to be a classic 80s feeling Scorpions album with a sting and a bite, and it certainly has that in its raucous guitar tones, classic riffage, and the swagger in Klaus's vocals across this album. Sure, it does have its weaknesses, some dodgy lyricism, some cliche choruses, and some mediocre riffs from time to time, but that's really it. The strengths do outweigh the weaknesses on this album. This is a good Scorpions album. Is it as good as Sting and Tail, Humanity Hour? I'm not quite sure at this moment, but it's certainly a great feel-good rock album that I'm certainly going to be playing along the summer. I can imagine this on a nice hot summer's day, blasting out. This is what you want. It's a 7 out of 10. This has been TheAIbumMan. Thanks for watching, comment, subscribe, and as usual, long live rock and roll.